Hi everyone. We are experiencing a global crisis in the modern world with the COVID-19 pandemic for the first time that can show an independent and a collective enemy of the whole world. While the pandemic continues, our social practices and demands are transforming with the concepts such as new normal and post-pandemic. In this presentation, we will examine the current pandemic, the changing architectural understanding, and the built environment in the light of a dystopian novel, Brave New World. The current COVID-19 pandemic has changed many temporary and permanent habits and social practices with its process and the urgent request for adaptation. It also brought many new concepts to our everyday language. Architecture was provided with some temporary solutions with the pandemic, and on the other hand, it showed us the changing human habits with these temporary solutions. The pandemic is not a crisis that comes and goes out of nowhere. The fact that it begins, continues for a long time, and will probably lose its effect very slowly shows us that social cultural practices will also follow changing habits. In this context, when making evaluations regarding the pandemic and the post-pandemic process, it should be taken into account that the new and transformed one is realized as a result of necessity of an urgent adaptation. Since the announcement of pandemic in this period, when everything from economy to social policies, from management styles to production relations were discussed and transformed, the understanding of architecture and urbanization has an important place. With the development of urbanization, easy and fast transportation connections between countries accelerate the spread of COVID in cities, so COVID-19 transmission areas are seen more critical in cities. In this context, the COVID-19 virus, which is triggered of the current crisis, combined with the political regimes and capitalism that aspire to be totalitarian, created an environment of unpredictable dystopia. The formation of a dystopia can occur as a result of a sudden event, as well as the evolution of utopia. In this context, the current state of modern world seems to be fueled by both. It's important to evaluate the current and possible environment in the light of Brave New World, in order to better understand and predict the pandemic as a qualifier of the current situation and the post-pandemic we attribute to aftermath. In the narrative of the book, there is a very strong caste system in the main backbone of the authority in order to sustain the artificial society established with the Fordist mentality. Having emerged due to differentiation of the necessity of labor force, the caste creates an understanding of the order where every newborn is conditioned to caste they are within, and where there is no free will, as the sovereignty of the individual is not desired. This society, devoid of feeling and awareness of the free will, consists only in individuals serving to spy the will of the system. We will analyze the relationship of Brave New World and the built environment architecture to three main concepts: community, identity, stability, that form the structure of Brave New World, and we will obtain architectural outputs. Managing crisis has been from a single source for ages to make quick decisions in a crisis. Every crisis increases the power and intensity of the single focused power available. We affirm the legitimacy of the increasing power of the government in order to not encounter a secondary power problem in times of a crisis, to overcome the crisis as soon as possible, to learn the right information from its source, and to ensure stability. As seen in the Brave New World, these powers, which have increased during the pandemic process, are in danger of continuing their effectiveness even after the post-crisis, as this principle, non-restoration of earned right, confirms. As a result, the increasing power makes it possible for the unifocal powers take a role of social engineering and impose their ideal society models on people in the future. The current pandemic is the name of a transforming system that we call the new normal today. When the new normal continues in the post-pandemic period, the new suffix from the beginning will be just normal, and we will stop putting the normal world in front of every normalizing thing. As can be seen, the life does rearrange with the motive of being protected and sterile. Both socially and physically separated people ensured that there were common lifestyles within these differences. This process, which is mostly combined in the socio-economic denominator, ensures communication in the future, making people identical. Congregation is a result of single or multifocal identities, evidence of commonality of identical ones. The concept of home and outside, public space, which changed the motto "Life Fits Home", were intertwined. However, it deprived people of identity in their own categories as those who could stay at home and who could not. As a result of these identities, communitarism will polarize the social polarization into who can stay at home and who cannot stay. It will increase the tension between the brain and body labor force. In Brave New World, the difference between brain and body labor force is made clear by classes, and society is built on this system. In the current situation, this differentiation shows that our society will classify in this direction in the post-crisis period. Today, we are experiencing the architectural adaptations and changes brought by the pandemic. The city and the architecture of our future are evolving into a physical environment in which segmented people can be more easily governed, while these different groups make increasingly alienated from each other and cannot use each other's space. Thus, the concept of space evolves into a different commodity, and the concepts of the time perceived by the users with the disappearance and the digitalization of the interaction boundaries creates a concept of time-space. Besides, with the separation of our experience in the context of both architecture and the city into a number of procedural uses and processes, it pushes us towards a predictable and procedural life that doesn't allow anything extraordinary to happen, thereby clandestinely increasing the power of the ruling powers. Although the social memory, which doesn't easily give up its habit, protects us from the current health crisis with the new habit it gains today. It seems very likely that our altered lifestyle and our physical environment, which we have transformed, will take us a point where we cannot reach each other anymore. When our new order of life, which is shaped by our habits, will cease to be new normal and become future that represents our ordinary state. Thank you for listening me. Have a good day.